Hello folks, this is a trigger warning from me, which isn't something we've done before. This episode is one I am very proud of. It discusses accessibility and disability within holiday accommodation, but it also includes some conversation around palliative care for children and young people and the realities faced by families navigating serious illness, loss and disability. I'd love you to join us, but please take care while listening if these topics feel like too much. Welcome to the Confident Host podcast with me, Kay Gibbs. If you're a holiday let host or co-host looking for more bookings, more efficiencies, and to get ahead, then you are in the right place. Each episode brings you practical tips, real stories, and expert advice. On today's podcast, I'm welcoming Emma, a champion of those with disability and accessibility needs, and she's here to tell us all about what we can be doing to be inclusive and make sure that everyone is welcome at our properties. There's obvious moral need for this, but there's also plenty of financial arguments that Emma can talk to us about too. So grab a pen for this one, folks. You need a cuppa and a pen. So let's get started. Hello, Emma, and welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I must say, folks, Emma is the very first guest on the podcast who has directly approached me saying, I want to get to know you and I want to be on this podcast. So it's a particular joy to welcome her. Emma, first up, what are you drinking today?
Hello, thank you. So I'm actually drinking rooibos tea.
Oh, nice.
Being Scottish, we always love our tea. But for me, I have to go for rooibos. I have IBS, so I have to limit my caffeine intake. And rooibos is naturally low in caffeine and still very tasty. A lot of people think herbal teas are funny, but actually, I quite enjoy.
Oh, well, not listeners here. This is it. They might think they're funny, but they think I'm funny. So mine's a chamomile, as it is there all the time. And I also don't drink any caffeine because I'm constantly pregnant or breastfeeding and my children don't sleep. So that's my way of trying to make them sleep. I mean, it doesn't work, but you gotta try these things. So Emma is here to talk to us about a subject that I know you are going to be fascinated by. And I'm myself really excited to ask her lots of these questions. And I've been resisting the urge to ask her these questions since we arranged the podcast because we are going to learn so much from this. So Emma, tell us why you're here and a little bit about your company and what you're doing.
Thank you very much. So I'm from a business called Porphura. I founded Porphura in 2024, originally to advocate for disability inclusion, raise awareness of what people are doing and what businesses are doing. It naturally progressed into realizing that businesses needed more support than what people were providing them that are already in the field. So there was still that knowledge gap between people with disabilities and businesses. And I decided that I had the skills and the abilities to be able to plug that gap and give those businesses support. So I kind of now do that at the moment through Porphura. Previously, I did 10 years in hospitality and then went into pediatric nursing. And I was a pediatric nurse for 12 years. And I covered lots of different areas when I was doing that, from acute illnesses to intensive care to community, even into children's palliative care at the end of my career before I left. And when you're doing children's nursing, even as a student, you're very quickly exposed to families with the dynamic of children with disabilities, or even family members who are older with disabilities as well. And whilst I was nursing for that whole 12 years, the narrative for this demographic of people didn't change. The parents still said to me, my concerns are for my child when I am older and when I'm not here. What opportunities exist for them? How are they going to look after themselves? Who's going to look after them and provide for them when I'm not here anymore? And then you continue to witness daily struggles to genuine access as well. And the stress for these families is so high, it's so intense. And I just thought, this isn't right. And then when I was in my nursing, I was a personal carer for a family that had 3 children with disabilities. And each disability was a different disability. And they went on holiday. And when they came back, I said, so how was your holiday? Was it great? And they said, it was really good, but I'm now ready to go on holiday. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? What's happening? And they said, well, because they were out of their original environment, they didn't have the same resources available to them. Their conditions were exacerbated, or symptoms of their condition was exacerbated. This is in the children. And they didn't have the same resources and support available to them. They didn't have the same routine and the structure. So it was actually more stressful for the parent to try and gain, the benefits of having a holiday. And I was like, well, that's not really a holiday. And this family genuinely would then leave the children with us for a few days, and then the parents would go away for a weekend themselves, and we would provide overnight care and everything as part of their care package, so that they could then go and recuperate from having a holiday. And it's like, that shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't be doing that. So for me, my personal circumstances changed, and we found ourselves falling into the lifestyle of being a holiday host. We took on a property for personal reasons for family, extended family members who needed it. But until they needed it, we were operating it as an Airbnb because we ourselves couldn't financially afford to run 2 properties and just have one sitting empty. So we naturally fell into it by accident whilst I was still nursing. And then I realised actually I could really make changes here and use this that align with my goals and my aims with making hospitality more inclusive for people who are constantly fighting for everyday things, who don't have to have a holiday after having a holiday. So I started down this journey to make these changes and to kind of just adopt my principles and my values into my hosting experience, my hosting capacity. And then last year started down the route of developing a course to provide that training and that ongoing learning that I have done for other hosts to also go down the same route and the same journey. So that's kind of where
you
I'm
are.
at now.
What a journey. Tell us a little bit about your holiday let. Is it nearby, or where is it, and how many does it sleep? What's it all about?
Yeah, so my holiday let's in Central Fife. We bought a property, which is it's a period property, and the property for the Airbnb side of it is actually part of the house originally that was separated and made into a separate property. It's got its own address. It's had somebody else living there for 20 years. It's completely annexed off, but it is part of our house. Just after COVID, the owner came to us and said that they were going to sell up, and were we interested? And initially we thought we might buy it back to see about kind of opening it back into the original house. At the same time, we had a family member, my father-in-law, who unfortunately wasn't a well man, and he lived by himself down south. And we kind of just knew that we were one fall away from him having to come to live with us. We had space in the house, but he said he didn't want to live in the house. He wanted his own. And we thought this would be a perfect little place for him. It's right next door. I can pop in and out as I need to. And this is why it works so well as a Airbnb as well as like a holiday rental. I can pop in and out as and when I need to do the cleaning, to do the maintenance. I can keep an eye on things. But equally, the guests are completely self-sufficient. They're self-contained. They don't have to worry about me encroaching on them in any way. And it's so handy that it's actually so close to us, especially if you've got kids to juggle and another business to juggle, and doing it all myself. I do the turnovers, I do the management, I do everything myself. So it's just really handy having it right there. It's all on the ground floor. It's level access once you get in, but there is 2 steps that lead into it, but it's level access once you're in. And it's just a wee 1-bedroom property. So it's just a wee cute little thing. It's not a massive property or not several bedrooms, but we made sure we put changes in place for people who were traveling with companions, either travel companions or carers. So we have like a sofa bed in the living room to make sure that we can accommodate that kind of makeup.
So straight away, that's something that I think, this is going to be really interesting to talk about. So we'll come back to that.
Hello folks, it's just me coming on to interrupt me and tell you about Confident Host Circle. It's my subscription group, a membership for hosts just like you who are looking to take what can be something of a lonely sport and bring community to it. Inside, you'll find community, training, inspiration and support to feel confident in your hosting and in your business. Each month we enjoy a theme where there will be training, both things that are quick fixes and also bigger, more strategic ways of building efficiencies into your business and just getting more bookings. Confident Host Circle is all inside a private Facebook group where there's a really lovely community of like-minded hosts, as well as the training and the chance to chat and ask questions and so on. We have a monthly live where we either meet up together or you guys get the chance to ask me anything. At its heart, it's about consistency, community and confidence. And I would love to see you there. You can find out more at www.kaygibbs.com/confident host.
Just to go back to your journey there, I just wanted to, mention your paediatric nursing career, and especially the end of life that you mentioned. That just must have been so tough. And I think for me, when I go through something really difficult, or when I'm presented with desperate sadness or difficulties that other people are having, it's really useful to be able to channel that into something that's going to make a difference to someone else, not necessarily to those families. So is that kind of part of the energy that's driven this for you?
Absolutely. So I had thought about leaving nursing to pursue a more concrete career in disability inclusion for, I would say, 5 years before I actually left nursing. And moving into palliative care was really the thing that pushed me to make that leap, to leave and establish my own business. Because as wonderful as it sounds terrible, as wonderful as a hospice is in terms of what we can provide and what we can give to a family that are going through something that is so challenging and so difficult, the element that I couldn't get over was that when a family went on holiday, they couldn't take that child with palliative care needs with them. It was dangerous, actually, for them to take that other person with them. So quite often, children would come into the hospice for respite whilst the family went on holiday without them. And they were left behind. And you think, these families, you're not just dealing with children who have limited mobility, they have a limited lifespan. They're not going to be around for as long as you would hope or you would expect. That time is precious. And the guilt that the parents felt about leaving them behind to go on a holiday and to make memories without them, they always came back going, that person was missing. It was a great holiday, it gave me what I needed, but they were missing.
Yeah.
And I just really felt like that was just awful. And as a parent myself, I couldn't imagine having to have that battle and having that mum guilt. I mean, we all have mum guilt on different elements throughout our life. You have that guilt when you have a child with palliative care and you need a holiday, you need a break. It's not a luxury for these families. They need them to be able to continue doing what they're doing, and they can't function without them. But in order to do that, to have that level almost of selfishness, you're having to leave somebody behind, and you're also then missing out on making those really valuable memories that come with holidays as well. And those memories are things that, we talk about a lot in hospices. We make memories so that memories will last a lifetime. And that's an opportunity that these families don't get.
Yeah, absolutely. Goodness me, this is deep. This is life. This is life. No, don't be sorry. This is life-changing stuff. So I'm hoping today that we are going to cover what we can do if our property, because I'm assuming we're going to say that not every property is suitable for not every family, but we're going to cover something that might be suitable at that extreme end where you've got a palliative care situation for a young person. But we're also going to cover things that we might be able to change about our properties for people with much less life-altering disabilities, perhaps, or perhaps needing a carer, like you said, that sort of thing. So we're going to cover the spectrum.
Yep.
But goodness, we've gone in at the deep end there.
We have.
Listeners,
We've
grab a
gone in
tissue.
heavy.
Well, yeah, we have. But I think that's actually really important because do you know my reservation, not with this recording, but with just I know how this kind of makes me feel, that because I'm fearful of getting anything wrong, it holds me back from doing anything. And that is just, as a society, as a culture, that's something we have to challenge, not just about disability, but everything in life, isn't it? If something feels difficult, we step back from it when actually, because I don't want to offend anyone, I don't want to get anything wrong, I don't want to use the wrong words, that's tricky. So let's move on to that then. What are the barriers for people with disabilities and for us as hosts to kind of making this work? What barriers do we need to be conscious of in order that we can overcome them?
Yes, absolutely. I do believe that the fear of getting it wrong is one of the strongest factors. And the reason for that is there's a lack of guidance and there's a lack of governance around disability inclusion. And whatever guidance and governance you can find, it tends to be really ambiguous still. So for instance, if we take the Equalities Act of 2010, that's available to us. It's readily available. You can jump online, you can do a quick Google search and it'll pop up straight away. When you get into reading it, it's still very ambiguous, particularly around things like reasonable adjustments. It's open to interpretation. And when it's not really that clear and concise, there is still that concern of, am I doing the right thing? Am I saying it right? Am I using the right language? Am I going to offend somebody? And we don't want to do that. It's also very difficult to find anything that is more specific and more clear for us. There are organisations out there that do talk about these things. However, the level of detail that they go into or the level of support that they give can vary. So sometimes you have to jump around between different organisations to get information from different places. So that can make it finding the information that you need difficult. And also we don't want to get bad reviews. I mean, the reviews really are the building blocks of our business. They hold us up. With bad reviews then and bad PR, and it's the same with any business, whether you're a holiday host or whether you're a different venue or museum or anywhere, nobody wants bad PR. And then of course there's the loss of time, money, energy, effort. A lot of us are small business owners. We haven't got money to spend and to get it wrong and then having to reinvest it, or to not get the financial return or the financial benefit that we needed and wanted.
Yeah, so I feel like I don't even know what market is out there. I don't even know. It feels like an uncomfortable juxtaposition to talk about the sorts of things we were just talking about with children's palliative care and other things that, while not necessarily life shortening, are life changing and difficult and challenging. But then to also bring some honesty to the table and say, I would love to be able to accommodate anyone, everyone, but I also have to make sure my business is profitable. That is like, I'm uncomfortable saying that here, you know, but that has to be factored in, doesn't it? It has to
Absolutely
work.
does. And I'm not going to sit here and say that we don't as businesses. We absolutely do. But there's things about the business model that doesn't really work when you think about disability inclusion. And one of those things is the difference in customer psychology. So disabled customers approach businesses in a very different way to non-disabled customers. A really good way of looking at it is like a coffee shop. If we were walking down the high street and we really fancied a coffee, we would either stop at one that was nearest to us and we would just pop in and give them that spontaneous revenue, or it would be one that we looked at, we would go, oh, that doesn't look good, or we'll go to the next one and we see one that looks really nice and go, oh, do you know, I didn't really fancy a coffee, but that looks really nice. I'm going to pop in there and have a try of cake and coffee. And again, give that spontaneous revenue. Disabled customers cannot do that. They can't afford to do that, because if it's wrong, they don't know if the service behind it and the staff behind it and the infrastructure behind it can support their needs. So for instance, can they understand the menu? Is there alternative formats of the menu? If somebody is deaf, does that person know how to communicate with them? Does the environment suit for somebody with sensory needs? Is it noisy? Is there smells? Is it crowded? What's the lighting like? There's all these different things that they have to consider before they'll walk in through that front door. And that still applies to holiday rentals as well. When our customers, our guests, are looking for us, they'll look for us on different platforms that we're maybe already on. So things like your big OTAs like Airbnb, bookings.com, Verbals. They have their accessibility badge, but their accessibility badges are still very, very difficult to get. If you are catering towards somebody with a sensory disability, such as a visual impairment, they're still going to find it really difficult to find you on those platforms.
The accessibility, I think it's a step in the right direction. Do you feel it's a step in the right direction that Airbnb has now got this accessibility thing and you can put forward, you can put forward your pictures to show the setup and things, but it seems to me to be almost solely about people with limited mobility. That's it. That conflation of disability and limited mobility being just the same thing is difficult and has the potential to slow things down for people with other kinds of disability, I guess.
Absolutely. So, of course, I've done a lot of changes to my Airbnb. I cater towards a lot of different types of disabilities. However, there's only one that I don't, because of my period property, and that is I cannot accommodate guests in wheelchairs. So I don't get my accessibility badge. I could list 30, 40 other things that I do offer in terms of accessibility changes within the property structure and the way that I offer my service. However, because of that one thing, which is the width of my door frames, I don't get my accessibility badge. It's almost like that other 30 odd things doesn't matter.
Well, I guess, it's ignorance, it's a lack of understanding, isn't it? And in Airbnb, I suppose they would say, or Booking.com, any of them would say, how do we possibly start categorizing all these different things to provide for all these different people, which is a fair point. So is there an industry-wide kind of expectation? I'll tell you a story, Emma, that we're recording this around Easter time. And last week, I put a post out about dog friendliness in properties, right? Did you see it? You're nodding as if you saw it. Yeah, because I'll tell you, 120,000 people saw it because it kicked off. And that was because in it, I'd presented some fairly, I felt, inoffensive descriptions of what different levels of dog friendliness might have looked at. And that caused this huge consternation because it reached guests, essentially, this post. It went beyond my normal following. And there is, just about whether or not a dog is allowed upstairs caused this huge discussion, and everyone has a different point of view. And what struck me about it was that even with something that really is pretty hard to get offended by, just whether or not dogs are allowed on a sofa, or, people were deeply offended, first of all. And the difference in understanding of the same language was ever
Mhm.
so problematic. That was really what struck me. So I've taken away from that, right, I need to think here about how to support colleagues and how we as an industry come up with some sort of standardization, some sort of these are the things that could make you dog friendly or otherwise, and these are the things I do. And that's just about whether or not dogs are allowed on furniture, you know? So
Yeah.
when it comes to accessibility and disability, it feels to me, and I suppose this is another barrier for people, and I'm a person, it feels so big. It feels really unwieldy. And so thinking about how to categorize what I do and what I don't do and how can I find the right people. So what are your suggestions with that? Where do you sit with that?
Yeah, so I've seen it on a lot of forums where people are giving each other advice about things with disabilities, particularly around dogs. A lot of that advice is how to get through the loopholes of not accepting them legally.
Okay.
That is discrimination. And
Yeah.
there's so many things that I see on these host forums, comments, that I just sit there and I shake my head and I think, if any of these guests that you have put this post up about, and honestly, any of these guests saw what you are saying and what you're doing, you would be legally at risk of discrimination.
Mm.
There's 7 different types of discrimination, which a lot of people don't realise.
Okay, go on.
That discrimination falls into the Equalities Act of 2010. There's 7 types of protected characteristics that fall into the Equalities Act, but that includes people with disabilities. And then within that, it'll tell you about the 7 types of discrimination. And a lot of people don't even realise. And I've seen hosts coming and giving advice where somebody has said, here's a screenshot of a message. Is there anything untoward, or I'm feeling a bit funny about this? And I've seen hosts say, oh, their grammar's wrong, or look at their spelling, big massive red flags, would definitely
Wow.
say no, they're just going to cause you problems.
Oh,
Now,
goodness.
somebody with dyslexia, that's really hurtful and that's really challenging because
Yeah.
I'm there to advise businesses. I'm not there to villainize anybody, but I am there to say, do you know what? Actually, you're maybe misunderstood here, and your knowledge gap around disabilities is making you legally at risk.
Yeah, and it's also
If
making you
somebody had
miss
seen that.
out. To be really mercenary about it, you're also missing out on some money if you're if you're being difficult with people who are just genuinely looking for somewhere to stay. So I'm really proud to say, Emma, we don't get that in my group. So I run a group,
Oh,
UK
good.
Airbnb and holiday let hosts, and our core tenet is kindness. Like that's it. It's about kindness. So we're certainly not, I wouldn't proclaim that the moderators there, we're experts. I mean, I would love you to join our moderation team. I wouldn't proclaim we're experts on getting it right all the time, but we are experts on being kind, and that goes a long way. Coming to situations with openness, isn't it? But I mean, I understand. I sympathise with hosts who feel nervous about things, but yeah, I don't think I can sympathise with someone who's saying they won't accept a guest on the basis of their spelling and grammar. That does seem
Yeah. No, it's wrong thing.
unequivocally not good.
And then of course things with the dogs as well, where people are saying, oh, if you just tell them you've got allergies, because legally, if you've got an allergy, you don't have to then allow that guest to stay.
Okay, I didn't know
Again,
that. So I actually have an allergy to dogs. So
okay.
yeah, I do. I'm really allergic to the point where sometimes if I'm in the same room as a dog, it'll trigger an asthma attack. And I'm, you know, it's prohibitive for me. And it was interesting when you were talking about the coffee story about people going down the high street and thinking where they can go. I mean, it's not comparable, but it gives me a little flavour of it because I have to think, where can I go here that's not going to have had a dog in it? I have to think about it when I'm visiting people's houses. It can be difficult. I can't just get a lift from someone if they've ever had a dog in their car, because that would be really difficult in a car. So it gives me just like a little inkling to that. And my children also were both born with quite severe allergies to food, which has meant we're very restricted about where we can go to eat. And it's that thing of having to sort of plan everything in advance and research everything to the nth degree. And if you ring someone and you say, do you have a dairy-free option for this? And they go, oh, we've got a gluten-free menu. And you go, okay, I won't be coming there. So it gives me a little flavour of what that's like, that sort of pre-planning. But yes, I didn't know that because I genuinely have a dog allergy. I haven't got any kind of certification about it though. I've not had anything from a doctor. Do I need that?
No, I don't think so. So when you
Okay.
look at the Airbnb policies in particular, if you've got an allergy and you do the cleaning, you don't
Yeah.
have to accept that dog. Or it's the same
Yeah.
if you're a home share. You don't
Yeah.
have to do it. They will advise that you get a different cleaner in as a reasonable adjustment. Going back to the law, reasonable adjustment would be that you don't do the turnover after that stay, but instead you get a cleaner in. You cannot charge for the additional cleaning fee, but it's something that you as a business would provide as a compromise to then allow that person to come and stay with you. So there are like little loopholes, and you see people saying, oh, just say this, just say that. And it's like, but
Yeah.
you are closing the door to revenue. Why
May
are you so
I challenge that
afraid? What are you
as a
afraid of?
well, I'll tell you what I'm afraid of. May I challenge that
Okay.
as a person with an allergy is if I say I did that and I got a different cleaner in, I would never be able to sleep in there myself again. I couldn't do that. And so that's difficult for me to find places to stay. I have had a situation where I've made a booking with someone and then they've got in touch with me to say, we've had an assistance dog in. Is that going to be okay? And I've had to say, no, I can't come now. So that is a difficulty with assistance dogs for people with allergies. And there are quite a few people with allergies too. I suppose that this is the thing, isn't it? Is with everything in holiday letting, I'm often of the mind that we've got to lean into what we're doing and do it as well as we can, but crucially shout about it. So if we're really welcoming to people, for example, with assistance dogs, and I guess you can tell us a bit about what, rather than just being dog friendly, what else that kind of looks like. I would guess, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that if I'm someone with an assistance dog, generally speaking, I'm going to look for somewhere that is very open to that to start with. I guess I'm going to be restricted by, I might need to stay in a specific location. I might be going to a wedding there and I need to, but generally I would think, well, I'll go for somewhere that already says it wants my dog to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is one of the arguments that we see with hosts all the time, is that they'll say, I've been asked to take an assistance dog. However, I don't feel like I'm equipped to take an assistance dog. I have nothing against it, but I'm not equipped to take an assistance dog. Because you're right, it's not just about saying, yes, you're legally allowed into this property or not. You have to have an infrastructure in place. And that infrastructure can include things like making sure you've got dog bowls available to them as an extra. Sometimes they'll bring their own, but also things like, where's the dog going to relieve themselves? So if you're in a tower block, a property with a tower block and you haven't got a garden, you need to be able to provide information as to where they can actually go. And also information, they'll start asking you questions like a dog-friendly restaurant or a dog-friendly cafe or an activity that I can do. So there is an element of having to build an infrastructure around accepting accessible dogs. I also, just last week or the week before, put up on my Facebook page a guide to welcoming assistance dogs as well, because it isn't just about saying yes and no. There's infrastructure, there's things that have to be taken into consideration. And people, again, going back to that customer psychology, people with disabilities face battles every single day for every single right that they have. And they will tend to look for properties that accept dogs as standard because they don't want to have that fight with a host.
Yeah.
They don't want to have that justification and having to say, this is why I've got them, and that possibility of there being any kind of confrontation.
Yeah.
So they will make life easy for themselves where they can. The problem is, again, what I face, and I don't know if you went and saw my Facebook post, I had a rant over it out just before Christmas. I put onto my Airbnb profile that I was pet friendly. At the start of that, we then got loads of people wanting to book with us with non-assistance dogs. Airbnb states that you can specify what pet you accept. You don't have, just being pet friendly is not being dog friendly. And they went through this massive battle with me. It lasted 2 days. We were back and forward. I was like 6-7 hours on the chat with them, back and forward.
With Airbnb or with
Airbnb, because they told me that I had to take off my pet friendly listing. I had to untick that box in order to stop having guests that make complaints about me. And I said, but I'm following your policy. I have told them what pets I accept. And they said to me explicitly, you cannot be pet friendly purely to accept people with assistance dogs.
Yeah.
And I said to them, if you do that, if you forced me to do this, you are now in direct conflict with your accessibility policy, which means that you're not allowed to make me do anything that is going to it's indirect discrimination, indirectly disadvantage disabled people.
So if it were up to you, the platforms, Airbnb, Booking.com and so on, would have a box to tick to say accepts assistance dogs, which is a different thing from just accepting pets generally. Yeah.
Yeah, because they kept going down the legal route that assistance dogs are not pets, therefore can't be classed as pet friendly.
Right.
And I said to them, I completely understand and agree with that legal line of defense. However, if you think about customer psychology, you're directly disadvantaging them.
Yeah, because so what you're saying is reassuring to someone like me who my own place isn't dog friendly because I'm highly allergic. Common sense is going to prevail and people are going to seek generally to look for ones that say they are pet friendly. But actually that's so interesting because assistance dogs are not pets. So they're having to look for something to try and get the thing they want, but it's not actually exactly what they're looking for. That's so frustrating, isn't it?
It just makes that market for disabled people smaller.
Yeah.
Again, when I'm talking about making it harder for them to find guests that
Yeah.
are genuinely inclusive and genuinely welcoming to their specific needs.
Yeah,
And the only
quite.
way I managed to get around it with Airbnb in the end is I went and put on my listing, because I had to say that I accepted some pet, any kind of pet.
Yeah.
So I put on my listing, I kind of thought, I don't want pets. I'm happy with assistance dogs, I don't want pets. And I went and put on my listing that I accept giant African land snails. Because I thought, nobody is coming with a giant African land snail
I
to
mean,
the
if they are,
holiday
they're
they're
not going to
coming.
cause many problems, are they?
Well,
Pretty
and that
slow
was
off
the
the
thing. I
mark.
thought, well, risk mitigation here as well. If somebody does, it's a pretty low risk. It's a low risk animal. So,
That's
and it was
great.
ridiculous, because as soon as I did that, and I said to them, if I do this, can I keep my pet friendly box?
Hmm.
And they said yes. And I
That's
said, do
brilliant.
you realise then, you're kind of, by doing this policy and forcing me down this route. And of course, I was really digging my heels in, and a lot of hosts wouldn't, because
Yeah,
of course, they're
absolutely.
not sure of the law and they're not sure where they stand with these
Yeah.
things. So I really, really dug my heels in with it. And really, what they were saying in that moment is that they value customers who are traveling with a giant African land snail over somebody
Mm.
who's traveling with an assistance dog.
Mm.
And that's not just how it seems to me. That is genuinely how the disabled community will perceive that.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is meant to be something that is meant to be, evolving and adapting for the better. Airbnb talk a lot about doing, really good changes. And they've made changes. And then they do something like this. And it's like that
Yeah.
totally contradicts what you're trying to do or what
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
saying are
The
your
opposite of
values.
progression. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we need people like you fighting the good fight, and I'm sure that there'll be hosts inspired by listening to this who can then get on. And I like, if I've got a
There's going to be a
battle I need
flurry
to
of
pick with
listings.
Airbnb. Yeah, I'll wait till I'm
Everybody's
really
going to have a
cross.
listing saying they're accepting giant African land.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll wait till I'm a bit cross about something else, just generally in life, and then go, right, I remember
Yeah.
that battle I wanted to pick with Airbnb. Let's get to it. Because you need to commit sort of 6 to 7 hours, don't you, to it, to have a good battle with them. So you've talked to us about biopsychology, and I think that's key. And again, I'm going to come at this with the mercenary angle, because I know that's, we've got to be financially minded here. What we're saying is people with disabilities of various kinds are very restricted. And so that makes looking for somewhere to spend their money difficult. So if
Yes.
we can tap into that and look at, I'm always talking about ideal guest, I'm always talking about leaning in. And if we can tap into, here's a place where this and this is going to be easy. If we can get them to see that, then immediately they're obviously going to choose our place to come and stay, because that we've brought down those restrictions. So I can completely see both the difficulties and the opportunity in that. That's so useful to hear. Let's get to the nuts and bolts. What do we mean by disability and where it can impact on a holiday stay? So there's loads of kinds. And you said to me in your initial email, it's 8% of people with disabilities are actually in wheelchairs. That's
Yeah.
the so we're talking, what's the other 92%? We're aware of them. We know what people with wheelchairs might need. So tell us about the other 92.
Yeah. So again, kind of just backing this up with like legal stance, the Equalities Act of 2010 defined people with a disability as somebody that has an impairment that has a substantial impact on day-to-day life, and that impairment is likely to last longer than 12 months.
Okay.
Legally, that no longer includes people who are pregnant and people with broken bones, because they're less than 12 months, you're no longer legally protected under the Equalities Act.
Okay.
So kind of just making that change, because not a lot of people realise that change happened. So yeah, when we're putting it into numbers and perspectives, so 8% of disabled population use a wheelchair. The other 92%, we're looking at those with other physical needs, with mobility problems. So that can be those that are using walking frames, crutches and walking sticks. Those that have limb differences as well, they're classed as physical impairments. We have our sensory impairments. So of course that includes things like blind or low vision, deafness or hard of hearing, but also sensory sensitivities such as autism and PTSD, where there's triggering factors. We have our cognitive disabilities, so they tend to be our learning differences such as dyslexia, dyscalculia, and also memory processing challenges as well, such as dementia, fall into our cognitive disabilities. Our mental health disabilities, so that's things again like anxiety or PTSD, but also things that kind of affect the energy and concentration fall into that category too. And then of course we also have our chronic illnesses, which are not classed as disabilities but still has a lasting impairment, and that can be things like ME, long COVID, fibromyalgia, diabetes, cancer that lasts longer than 12 months. That all kind of falls into that category of need as well. And again, they benefit from things like a different pace or rest, and also reduced stimulation is essential for those types of guests as well. So that's really what we're looking at. So if you are thinking about accessible tourism and instantly going, oh no, I've got steps inside my property. Somebody who is blind, doesn't matter about that. Somebody who is deaf or hard of hearing, that doesn't matter to them either. But equally, they still need somebody who's going to be welcoming. And like you say, the things that truly matter to disabled people is transparency, openness and kindness.
Yeah.
And they're
I guess
still
if you're-
looking for those types of properties and those types of hosts that have inclusive attitudes, and they're willing to spend the revenue with hosts that have inclusive attitudes over those that don't.
Yeah, quite. Because if you approach someone and they come back to you with kindness, even if that's ignorance, kindness, that's a lot more welcoming than someone who comes back with anything less than kindness, isn't it? And you're thinking, right, okay, there might be some adjustments that can be made. This is going to be possible. Revenue-wise, looking at that list, it sounds like it's quite difficult to get on a plane or even a boat for quite a few of those categories of people. So again, we've got a captive audience in the UK that we should be capitalising on, shouldn't we? I feel
Absolutely.
like, and I hadn't planned to say this, Emma, but I'm going to say it because I feel like if I don't, I'm letting down the cause that we're talking about. So I have an autism diagnosis and I've never shared that publicly before, but I think unless you mentioned you have IBS at the beginning of the call, and I thought that's great because unless we share this, it doesn't kind of get out in the open and we don't realize that things people are going through. So mine, you said, I don't know if mine really has a substantial impact on my day-to-day life. I mean, it does, but in a way that is very manageable for me. I'm very fortunate with that. But again, I do get like a flavor of sensory needs. I certainly have additional sensory needs. I can't go places with strong smells, or I get overwhelmed with lighting and noise. That doesn't restrict me very much, but I think it's important I say that because if I don't, I'm letting down the opportunity to just say that there's a lot of people around that you may not, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear your feedback, listeners. Did you know this about me? Sometimes my clients will say, you're so fastidious, or God, you'll take a subject and just research it to the nth degree. And that's why. It's what makes me good at my job, which is great. But I just think we've got to be open about it. I thought it was so refreshing when you said about the IBS. So here's me showing my bit. So thank you. Just those definitions and just thinking widely about all of those different groups just in itself is really helpful to consider. The next question we've got on our agenda here is why we should care. But I mean, that has just come through in spades, hasn't it? Morally, of course we should. Of course we should be trying to accommodate people with, life restrictions. If we can offer a place where that just everything feels a little bit more comfortable, what a win that is. But also financially. Now, you mentioned to me that people with disabilities tend to stay longer. They might come off season. So tell us a bit about the kind of financials behind that.
Absolutely. Okay, so I know people feel a bit uncomfortable about this. I really think as hosts, we shouldn't. Okay, we need to break down that awkwardness and that barrier. We do have to think about it as a business move. We do have to talk about people as revenue. But you do that in any sector. It's not just in hospitality. So my industry analysis then, that kind of allows hosts to understand the opportunity that exists from a business perspective. So as we said, there's a lot of people who are struggle to get on boats and get on planes. At the moment, there's 26 million people in the UK alone that live with a long-term illness. So that's your chronic illness category. There is 16 million people, separate from that 26, there's 16 million who live with a disability. At the moment, that equates to 1 in 5.
Wow.
Internationally, it's 1 billion that we know of, because there's a lot of people out there that are undiagnosed.
Yeah.
So that we know of, there's 1 billion. So international statistics are that there's 1 in 4 people with a disability. And then when you talk about, or when you do things with accessibility, you're also opening yourself up to another market, the elderly market, age-related ailments. And that market is sitting at 15.5 million. That's people over the age of 60. And out of that 15.5 million, 50% of those people say that they live with a disability in the UK. So the numbers there are really, really high. That equates monetary-wise. So people with disabilities, we call it the purple pound. Now that's the spending power of the disabled community. That sits at the moment this year at £274 billion. That's So £274 billion. That equates in accessible tourism to about £15 billion. So when we really narrow it down to where we are, we're sitting in a £15 billion market that we could be tapping into. When you then think about the age-related ailments, so those elderly statistics, That's called the grey pound. And the market or the industry spending power of the grey pound is actually £320 billion.
Phew.
We're talking about an industry that is about, or a market, a target audience, that's about £600 billion. There
Yeah.
are very, very, very few markets out there that compete with that size. So it's no wonder that accessible tourism at the moment is one of the fastest growing segments of the tourism industry. The supply and demand gap that exists. So at the moment, the supply for accessible places to stay in hospitality and tourism is 7%, but the demand is 10%.
Okay.
Now, I know 3% doesn't sound like a lot, but that actually equates to about 2 million rooms. So there's a gap of 2 million holiday accommodations that is needed to meet the demand of the accessible tourism market.
Could it be that quite a lot of those rooms actually do exist, but hosts aren't identifying that that's what we are? Because
Absolutely. They don't realise, they don't recognise what they've got. So absolutely, it could be that there are things out there that already exist. We don't realise, we don't know
Yeah.
how to market it, but it is there. And it's trying to get that out that people can see and can find you. Now, we are quite lucky. So in short-term hostings, we're very fortunate that we quite often appeal to a family market. And families that have an element of disablement within it, that at the moment, the supply is only 2% in the whole of the UK. There's only 2%
Wow.
of accommodation that
Yep.
fits that category of need. But the demand is actually sitting at, again, between 7 and 10%.
Okay.
At the moment, if you are a family that has a disabled family member, be an adult or a child, and you go to stay in a hotel, there are hotels that will provide you with a second room. And I don't know if you've ever, you can do this yourself. You can quickly jump on Google, bring up your local travel lodge or your Premier Inn or your local hotel and try and book for yourself an accessible family room. They don't exist. It's accessible double rooms. Some hotels, like the big chains like Travelodge and Premier Inn, they'll give you a second room for free. But you are now separated as a family within that.
Yeah, that's just not going to work at all for
Doesn't
me. No.
Smaller independent places who can't afford to give away rooms for free, they'll actually genuinely charge you for 2 rooms. So you're paying double the cost to travel as a family as you would
Yeah.
if you didn't have kids.
Well, I mean, taking disability out of it completely, families, young families especially, do so much better in holiday lets than they do in hotels. Families like my own, I've got a 5-year-old and just 5 and 1-year-old, and it's so much cheaper for us to go to a holiday let than it is to try to book 2 rooms in a hotel because, as you say, we don't actually want 2 rooms, and we can cook for ourselves, all of those things. So already those families without disability, that's a natural choice. So add the disability in too, and needing accessibility, I can see that there's a market there.
Even just being in the fact that we're doing holiday self-caterings instead of being in hotels is a massive advantage for us already to be able to kind of make that transition really easy into accessible tourism.
So we've said that, I mean, there's this enormous market, and we've said that there may already be things going on in our properties that could be friendly for disabled people, could make things more easy. So tell us, first of all, what we might already be doing and how we can communicate that better, how we can get that across in our marketing, where we should be sharing it.
Absolutely. So things that you could already be doing. So you could be shaping your services as you go along. So if you get feedback from your guests, for instance, you didn't have a toaster in your property and somebody says, oh, I could have really done with a toaster in there. It would have been really good. It would have enhanced my stay. You would go out and you'd buy a toaster. So if you're already kind of implementing that kind of approach to your business, then you could already be doing changes for people based on feedback.
I'm going to be honest, Emma. I have run, I don't know what it is, 9 or 10 listings across 8 or 9 years. I've never been given any feedback that I think is relating to an ability or disability. Is that because, I mean, it's obviously not because I haven't had anyone with a disability stay. You've just given me the stats. That can't possibly be true. Is that because we've sort of, as a society, we're not open enough to hearing that? And so lots of these people they're not coming forward and not saying things. And what can I do to encourage that feedback?
Well, it can be. I mean, there is a culture within self-catering accommodation that we've all had it before, where we have a communication, we have an email at checkout and we say, you know, if there was any problems, please just let me know. I'm happy to talk it through with you. They say nothing. They say it was fantastic. It was brilliant. And then you get a 3-star review or there's some sort of criticism and you think, well, they never communicated that with me. They never told me. So there is that culture of not passing information on directly. And also, are you asking in your communications directly? Was there anything that you could do? Have you opened up that channel of communication?
So what would you give me? give me the question. What can I ask that will cover the bases I want it to cover without being, offensive? Obviously, I don't want to be offensive. What can I be asking? Because I'm thinking straight away I'll add that into, my feedback forms.
Yeah, so it's something as simple as just putting in like a statement about you wanting to be inclusive. So it's not necessarily changing the request, it's saying that I am open to inclusivity and do you have any feedback for me around that?
Great. Yeah, okay. Well, there's
So
change number
it
one.
can be simply as, we try to be inclusive to everybody as we possibly can. If there was something that you felt would have made your stay more enjoyable from an access point of view, then we are welcome to hearing your feedback.
Yeah, great.
It's
Thank
just,
you.
it is a very slight change in your language and how you're seeking that feedback and saying that you're open to that and you're not going to take it wrong. It's a
Yeah.
partnership. I think it's really important to remember that we work together when it comes to accessible tourism. It's not about always just providing a service. It's slightly different. It's community driven, it's human value driven. And if you can demonstrate through your transparency, your openness, and your kindness that you are genuine in your intent, then the disabled community will open up to giving you that feedback, to giving you that communication. But equally, if we're not getting that feedback, then it's like you said, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, quite. I think that was a great soundbite there, Emma. You just said something really reassuring to hear, I think, that you said if there's genuine intent, then really that can cover a lot of mistakes. If we're making mistakes in our language or in the way we're communicating or even in how we presented and we've left something wrongly, or if there's genuine intent towards being welcoming, kind and accessible, that goes a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there is surveys from the disabled community who say that that is what they value most over perfection. You
Yeah.
don't have to get it right, and we don't have to strive for what a lot of people class as fully accessible. Fully accessible does not exist. If you
No.
talk to the disabled community, everybody will say, I read an article, they said fully accessible, it put me off straight away. Do not use that term. I don't advocate using that term. It's not a good phrase or analogy to use. And I think it's really important that when you break down that barrier to being fully accessible or striving for fully accessible, and you look at what you do offer and you're just factual about what is available,
Yeah.
it goes
Yeah.
a long way and it allows
Yeah.
them to make the decisions for themselves. Oh, I need to give you that feedback to make it better
Yeah.
the next time.
Okay, so sorry, I interrupted you
Yeah.
there. Back to that question, what we might already be doing and how we can
Yeah.
communicate it better. So that's something, it's just intent, isn't it?
Intent. Yeah,
Intent, yeah.
absolutely.
What else?
Offering flexibility. So do you offer flexible check-ins and check-outs? Are you, with those processes, what's your communication like as well? So are you offering various methods of communication? Is it all done digitally? Are you offering your phone number? Are you offering digital welcome packs instead of just paper welcome packs when they arrive? All this kind of thing. It's about having a variety because some people might benefit from paper welcome packs, other people would benefit from digital welcome packs. So it's about that kind of flexibility in what you're offering and what you're already doing. As I said before, it's providing clear and honest information. We are not, as hosts, really allowed to say to somebody, I'm really sorry this isn't going to suit you. I don't think you should book with me. Or I think you should cancel the booking. That is a form of ableism and that can get you into trouble. You are making a decision for someone else based on your assumptions. As a host, really all we need to do is be accurate in what we're saying. Don't get hung up on what we're not providing. Access statements are really, really good for this, in that you just detail all the different points. You can even bullet point to make it really clear, really easy. The bathroom has A, B, and C as, adaptions. For instance, like for me, my kitchen, I have black splashbacks on my kitchen. I have white appliances. So the kettle is white, the toaster is white. That's really beneficial for somebody with a visual impairment to know. And that would help them make the decision to come and stay with me or not. That level of detail. I'm not being like opinionated or ambiguous by saying, oh, I have contrasting kitchens. So I'm not there offering the opinion. I'm there to offer the facts and they make the opinion themselves.
I think we shouldn't underestimate how, if you're someone living with a disability and we're talking about something that lasts over 12 months, you've got a lot of experience at looking for what you need. You're well aware of what to look for. And so we don't need to second guess that. We just need to present the fact.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay,
And that
understood.
goes a long way because, like I say, it goes back to that providing the information, making it easier to find, making that information easier to find so somebody can make that decision. And of course, you touched on it earlier with your own lived experience about the time it takes you to research things and look at things. That's recently been coined as a phrase. Nobody's had a name for it, but Ewan's Guide, you should go and check them out online. Great resource. It's a TripAdvisor for venues and it's peer reviewed, but people also use it to get recommendations of where to go. If they're looking for a coffee shop, if they're looking for an event or activity, if they're thinking about attending a museum, they'll go and look at the reviews first. It's a really good resource for the disabled community. So get yourself on there. You can actually list your property on there for free.
Oh, fantastic.
And then that can drive direct bookings to your platform as well. But yes, what was I saying about Ewan's Guide? Going back, Ewan's Guide have just released a survey and they have coined the phrase as time tax. And the disabled community on a weekly basis for day-to-day things that we take, we take for granted, will spend anywhere between 8 hours and 20 hours a week just researching what they're doing that week and where they're going and what businesses they're using. So going back to that customer psychology, if you are applying that to looking for holidays, we already know, we all look for holidays ourselves. How long does it take for us to
make that decision? So add the time tax on. That's extreme.
You add that time tax on. There was no figure for that. They didn't provide a figure for that, but you can only imagine what that is. If you can already make that easier for them straight away, they're already getting a really good vibe and you're already showing them that you have inclusive attitudes and inclusivity is embedded in the way that you run your business. So already that's sending a massive message to the disabled community just by doing something simple like that.
And I suppose we shouldn't underestimate that, because those people who have specific things that are going to make their stay better are going to be pretty well equipped at looking on a listing and sussing out, is this person attuned to the needs I've got? Are they open to them? Because I was kind of thinking, I mean, that sounds amazing. That Ewan's Guide sounds like an amazing resource. But in the end, most of our bookings are going to be coming through bigger platforms. They're going to be coming through Facebook, through Google, through direct bookings from us, where we might not be able to tick boxes. There's not that kind of filtering system. But what we're saying, that time tax is spent on people actually coming all the way into the listing and reading a bit of blurb, isn't it? Or looking at a couple of pictures. So actually part of the opportunity here is that people with disability are going to be more open to looking all the way through our listing or our website to find what they need to know. They're accustomed to not just being able to tick a box and get the right filters, I guess, sadly.
Yeah. But there is platforms that exist for accommodation listings that you can list on, that you can be more specific, and it is more open to a broad spectrum of disabilities that goes beyond what's already on some of your larger OTA platforms. And I think it's really important to understand that if you are considering accessible tourism as an avenue for your business, I'm not sitting advocating saying that is what you should do solely and leave behind everything else that you're doing. Accessible tourism can complement what you're already doing. And it can subsidize, so going back to the benefits, for instance, they travel off peak. So if you are already getting really good rewards from being on these larger OTAs and you are just trying to fill those midweek slums or those winter slumps that we get, absolutely, why not consider doing a bit of infrastructure into your accessibility and then allow you to list on these platforms, and then you're listing on both places. You're increasing your market. You're not cutting off one market to then supply another. Inclusivity can work alongside each other. It doesn't have to be clinical. It doesn't have to be obvious. It can be really seamless. It can be really aesthetically pleasing still. A lot of people who don't even need it won't even realise that it's there.
No, quite.
Again, going back to my kitchen.
Yeah.
Love my kitchen.
Yeah.
I've got white doors, but I've got black handles.
Yeah.
Visually, it looks absolutely fine. It looks appealing.
Yeah.
It looks modern. It looks clean. It looks fresh. It looks bright. Somebody with a visual impairment will look at that same photo and look at it completely differently. Or somebody with a dexterity problem who can't deal with doorknobs and levers, doorknobs instead of levers, will also look at a picture of a living room and see the door to the hallway and look at the door in the hallway and go, oh, is that a knob? Is it a lever? They're looking for different things. And again, going back to that customer psychology, they're looking for different things to then choose to book us.
Yeah, understood. So we talked a bit about the communication. So we're going to come on to now, we've got two more things really to talk about. One is easy fixes, quick adjustments, some sort of bullet points that you would say, if we can, just do this, bish, bash, bosh. And then, of course, there's deeper changes. I mean, I'm already picking up from you that the deepest change I think I want to make is openness to it. And I'm not saying I've been closed, but I haven't been deliberately open. So that's a whole psychology thing. But first of all, easy fixes, quick adjustments, things we can go away and do in the next week. that we don't even know we could do?
Absolutely. So I'd say the first thing is your communication. Customer journey starts at your digital footprint, not at your front door. So what is your online communications saying? One, what is the tone? What is the language that you're using? But also, what information are you providing to your guests? Is it detailed enough? Do you have something like an access statement or not? Access statements, they're really quick and easy to set up and do. You can start critiquing yourself, the physical accessibility within your property. Start looking at it. If you're looking at a white wall with a white light switch, is that going to be visible to somebody with a disability? There's little things. I know not everybody's an expert at being able to say, oh, this is what they need with sensory impairments or with cognitive impairments. But you can look and see, what have I got? What am I offering? So you can start doing that physical critique. Start looking at it objectively as to what you're offering. The same as what you do when you look at a property and you go, oh, could I market myself for families or not? And you would critique it yourself. You would think, well, have I got this? Is that there? Do I need this? Do I not need this?
Yeah,
Does
sure.
that matter? Start
It's-
doing that with a view to accessibility.
It's a level of curiosity, isn't it? Approaching it with curiosity and openness and seeing what you can see.
Absolutely. Easy communication. So any kind of communication that you are providing, is it easy? Your welcome packs, is it full? Is it like massive amount of jargon? Is there lots of words? Or are you breaking it down to bullet points and pictorials to help people that, struggle with communication? Your reading communications, those kind of things are quite easy and quite simple to do. And a lot of this is free as well. It's mostly your time. It's not costing you anything to make these changes. And then, looking at things like your availability, your flexibility, and looking at, well, what could you afford to do? Do you want to start looking at somebody who has visual impairments and start opening your door towards that? And then, prioritize your revenue towards that type of market. Start having those conversations, those thoughts. Start doing a wee bit of your research. Really quick, easy changes. I mean, as I said, it can be something simple as the aesthetics. A really good thing, I mean, I'm all about low cost, high impact changes because let's be honest, we haven't got a massive revenue pot every year that we can dip into. It tends to be a subsidized kind of income. When it comes to looking at accessibility, for all this other 92% of disabilities, a lot of the changes are about your environment and your interior design. So it's looking at common colours. Is it cluttered? Is there walkways that are easy to navigate? If not, have you got lightweight furniture that people can move things around? I'm not talking about the sofa. I'm talking about coffee tables and lamps and dining tables and that kind of thing. Are they lightweight? Are they movable? So that the space can be adapted for the person who's coming in to use it. Do you have equipment available to them? I don't have grab bars that are installed in the property. However, I do offer the removable grab bars. If somebody came into the property needing it, it's listed on my access guide as needing it. They just need to tell me that they need it and I will provide it for them. So just as much as I go in and I change the bedding and I wash the shower, I will put on the grab bars, and I also have a standalone shower chair as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Really cheap, really easy. My shower chair was £20. My grab bar were £25. Amazon.
Yeah.
Easy
That's no
peasy.
different to putting in a high chair when you've had a request for one, is it?
Exactly.
Same thing. Just meeting those needs.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Think about where you can and where your limitations are. The more expensive things is the wheelchair accessible. And if you can be wheelchair accessible, that's amazing. That's great. Let's look at that infrastructure as well. Sometimes it's having to get ramps in. If you've got wide enough doorways inside, but the access lies outside, it can still be low cost to cater for somebody with a wheelchair, using, because a ramp can cost as little as £100. And then you can use that as and when you need. If it's something that you're not seeing very often, you can actually hire them from your local mobility and your local shop mobility schemes.
Yeah.
You could hire them out. There are places in your local community where you can hire equipment. And also somebody in a wheelchair doesn't always use it full time. So they might not have to use the wheelchair inside the property. If you've got somewhere that you can store a wheelchair safely, like in a porch or in like a locked shed or whatnot, and that person is ambiguity, so they're able to get themselves in and out of the chair and they use a frame when they're within your property, you could still be saying that you cater towards that category of disability. It's all about how you approach it, how you look at it. Don't look at things as barriers and what you can't do. Look at what you can.
Yeah. See the opportunity. So if you were, let's say I was about to build from scratch a brand new holiday let that was going to be as accessible as possible to as many groups as possible. Tell me about Dreamland. What would, I'm thinking about those precious families you talked to us about who are, their child in hospice care, or, someone with profound needs. What would the dream place look like if you could do everything?
Absolutely. So, of course, we're thinking about our deeper changes, our more expensive changes. So, that would be like specialist accommodation features. So, that would be things like having hoists available or ceiling tracking hoists available that are built in. So, if you're building from the ground up, you would normally go for a ceiling tracking hoist. If you are not building from the ground up, you can still get mobile hoists that you can use that can be moved around. Things that like profiling beds, integrating sensory spaces as a spare room, soundproofing, in-depth staff training and awareness, which gets them to the level that they're able to confidently offer adjustments at a guest's request without the guest having to justify why.
Yeah.
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 Justification's a big thing. There's a business model that we all have that doesn't work for disability inclusion, and that is evidence need first. So businesses will not invest if they've not got the evidence of need. However, going back to customer psychology, if you're not demonstrating first that you're accessible, you're not going to get them through the door. In that approach, I completely understand why it exists for businesses. And in most customer base, it does work and it is important. However, when you think about disability inclusion, the inclusion that people are looking for is basic human need. It's not priority treatment or specialized treatment. So when we're sitting there saying we're waiting for the evidence before we'll invest in these changes, you have to ask yourself, are you now trying to evidence base human rights?
Yeah, that's big. That's a big challenge to set us, Emma.
It's deep. I apologize.
No, don't. Right. Well, I think we need to shift now from that. So I've said to you, I'd love you to do for a kind of do just one thing. If we go away from this now, just one thing. Now, for me, I'm going to make an access statement, which I haven't done, and I'm going to walk around my own property a bit like I would for my fire risk assessment, with curiosity and openness, listening to some of the things you've said, and think, what here am I already doing that I need to speak about, and what would be a really simple, straightforward change the next time I'm renewing something, and do that. So I'm going to do myself an accessibility statement for now, and then I'm also going to do, I guess, an audit into what I think my next steps are. So that's my just one thing I'm taking away. What other just one things would you say we should look at?
Absolutely. So I think that's definitely like the best first steps that you can do, because you need to find out where your barriers are, what your limitations are, so then you know how to overcome them. And I think the key takeaway from today is to remember that when it comes to accessibility or accessible tourism, it's an add-on to what you're already doing. I'm not trying to tell you you need to shift completely from one to the other. You don't have to
Sure.
make a choice. It's
Yeah.
an addition to enhance your revenue, to see longer bookings, to reap the rewards off of that, to benefit from longer stays.
Mm.
These are
But
all the things that come from that market.
also, for me, and often I will speak to clients and we'll speak in our various groups, and we speak in Confident Host Circle, which is my membership, about reasons that we love what we do. Something I love about my hosting job is it's such a privilege to be the place that people choose to come on holiday. I mean, that's less relevant when it's a corporate stay and they're coming to do someone's plumbing, right? But when it's when it's a family holiday or a special couples break, or they're celebrating something, that is such a privilege. And what I'm hearing from you is that there's an opportunity to feel even more of a sense of reward if I can give that same privilege to someone who isn't always afforded that accessibility, isn't always afforded that kind of ease of choice because of a disability. So that seems to me like a brilliant opportunity, and one I really would like to take forward.
Absolutely. And I think when you're thinking about accessibility, the main point is that it's necessary for about 10% of the population,
Yeah.
but it's helpful to about 30%,
Yeah.
but it's completely comfortable to be used by 100% of the population.
Quite.
So why
Quite.
wouldn't you take advantage of
Yeah.
all the benefits that come with it?
And if I was reading someone's marketing and I saw their openness and I saw their kindness and I saw their specificity about what exactly they offer, I, as an able person, would find that appealing about that listing or that website or that Facebook page, or because that says all the right things about them as a host, doesn't it? So it's win-win-win. You've been incredible. This has been an absolute mine of knowledge, and my notes page is looking pretty hectic today. Can you tell us? No, don't apologise. Can you tell us, where can we find you? Where can we learn more? How can people work with you?
Absolutely. So if you want an example of like access guides and the type of alterations that you could put into your property that's not costing a lot of money, feel free to jump on to my website. It's porphura.co.uk.
We'll put that in the blurb. So if you're
I'll
listening,
write it so everyone knows how to
yeah.
spell it. Absolutely. And you can see examples of like the access guides on there and the type of information to go into it as well. And my holiday listing, you can go straight to that and see. I have a feeling you'll look at it and not actually fully understand what it is that you're looking at in terms of
I think we will now. You've talked us through it. I would never have picked up on the white and black and that sort of thing, but now I'm going to look at it with real interest and understanding, I think. Yeah.
And then follow me on my socials as well. So I'm on Facebook. Again, I'm just under Porphura. You can find me on there. I'm forever putting up content just now highlighting where the accessibility lies within the property. I've just done a really fun reel about how to make your own allergy-free and scent-free cleaning sprays for your property that really help for people like yourself with allergies or those that have like sensory stimulation that need to have properties that have no scent. So I'm putting that stuff on free. There's free content on there that you can access as we kind of go along. I've got some more exciting things that I've just gone and bought and I can't wait to put into the property next. I'm just waiting for my current guest to leave so I can actually put that in. So yeah, follow me on the socials as well. If you have any questions specific to your holiday rental, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. Reach out to me either through the website or through the Facebook socials. I'm more than happy to kind of have a chat with you one-to-one about where your concerns lie specifically.
Emma, thank you so much. This has just been an absolute joy. And really challenging, really stimulating, and I really appreciate it. We'll
No
keep
problem.
in touch.
Thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Emma.
Next time on the podcast, I'm talking all about your first steps as a holiday let host. The things I wish I'd known at the beginning and the things that will set you up for success right from the start. See you next time.